Hello, welcome to today's session. We'll just allow a moment for everybody to arrive and we'll begin the main session in a minute or two. So welcome if you've already joined. We'll just let the other delegates arrive. I can see a few more people arriving, so welcome if you've already joined us. We'll just let the others through the gate and then we will begin. Welcome if you've just joined this ETOA session. We are allowing a moment for the delegates to spool in and we will begin in a short while. Oh, and welcome to this ETOA session. I'm Rachel Reed, Director of Insight here at ETOA. I'm delighted to be joined today by Michele Ancelotti from our newest data partners at Lighthouse. Very warm welcome to you, Michele. This is
Thank you very much, Rachel.
This is our first webinar with Lighthouse, so we're really looking forward to hearing some new types of data sources and insights. So we'll be doing that in just a moment. Michele is going to be talking about short-term rentals, as you can see, and hotel insights. So short-term rentals have had a really noticeable effect on capacity and destinations' ability to manage it with full information. And so today we're going to hear about some of the trends. We're going to hear about some of the effects on the markets with the restrictions that have been in places in cities like Venice and Barcelona. And Michele is also going to share some KPIs around how we measure all this stuff, because it is still quite new and emerging. So we will look forward to hearing some of those. A couple of housekeeping points. Michele's presentation will be available afterwards, so we'll email that out to you along with this recording. So you'll receive that shortly afterwards. Do please ask any questions you want using the Q&A facility. So just type those as you think them, and we'll either interrupt Michele or we'll wait to the end depending on the question. So feel free to put questions in there. And so with that, I hand over to you, Michele.
Fantastic, Rachel. Thank you very much for having me today. Yes, it is indeed our first meeting as I joined Lighthouse, actually quite recently. But I'm really keen to have this opportunity. And so once again, thank you very much for this exposure and actually to share some interesting, pieces of information. These days, as a way I would like to share with the whole audience, of course, I'm not a data analyst, not a data engineer, but I think with this webinar, what is very key is to showcase how data these days can really being useful to understand, to read specific trends, any event impact on any destination. And we will do so by comparing some data on short-term rentals and as well as on hotel insights. And actually, we will deep dive into 4 main key European cities. So let's move on with the agenda. So I will do like a short brief introduction of our Lighthouse, of course. This is a must do. So I will read the context as well as and how actually you already, Rachel, had you started the conversation, and a comparative evolution between vacation rental and hotel. Then we deep dive into the analysis of the specific cities and their specific case. So we will be looking at Venice case with the city tax, the implementation of the city tax, Barcelona short-term rental ban. So what has been announced to be in 2029. They probably are not well known, but definitely for the Italian market, a known phenomenon called Airbnb bust. So something that happened during 2023, and then the London, again, not probably very famous but still restriction that was implemented with the council in London back in 2022. And some closing remarks. So just to, as I said, quick introduction, Lighthouse these days is probably, you can recall it Lighthouse for those who knew or been working in the hotel industries. You can recall it a company called OTA Insight, but as well as Transparent Intelligent. And basically, Lighthouse is basically fair new rebrand of the company. These days, within the data insight and business intelligence for the destination, basically the aim of Lighthouse is transforming what is complexity of the data into confidence, and so a really actionable insight for managing any destination globally. So Lighthouse is again is a rebranding of the company, but it holds inside lots of different expertise and know-hows, not only from OTA Insight, Transparent Intelligence, but as well as from different recent acquisitions, such as German company called HQ Revenue or Starduck, and so on. This is why, because basically within the hospitality segment, the aim of Lighthouse is basically provide more effective information, measuring performances, and basically understand the markets, and which is these days so becoming a little bit more data driven, if you like. So these days we partner up with more than 60,000 hotels worldwide, more than 300 private and public sector, from DMOs to DMCs, convention bureau, and so on. And we are the only one that can provide a real-time hotel and short-term rental data in a single platform. So really having this information under one unique tools, we see that these days has become key. So what I would like to say here, not just to showcase the numbers in terms of Lighthouse, but we are really convinced that the larger the data source and capability is, the more reliable and accurate the interpretation of this insight can be. So just to give you and for you to have just a little bit understanding of the enormous capability of Lighthouse these days, we monitor more than 2 billion global prices daily between short-term rentals and hotel, 23 millions of profiled from both hotel and short-term rentals, 6.6 million events, over 100 terabytes of raw data processed and aggregated daily, and so on. So up to 1.3 billions of hotel and flight search, because within our capability, we do not look only at historical data, both for hotels and short-term rental, but as well as we can look at wedding searches. Once again, this is one of the pieces that goes together. And once again, we are really crazy about the more data sources we can put together, making this easily to read, can really be accurate, and can really support any destination globally, because we are a global company indeed. So this is a really quick slide that I think is key, again, just to justify what I just said. So the data sources we have, we do not only work and we have our clients, all these four main players of the travel industry, so DMOs, public institution, enterprise, PMS tech company, global chain, management companies, but actually we partner up with this company and have the opportunity as well as to use data from them. And so this is why we call it, I call this this slide the data source record for the hospitality industries, because we have really put together the basic key player and key brands globally. So, but now let's move a little bit on what we want to be focused these days, so in the DMOs, and how and why our data can be leveraged from DMOs, which stands, most probably you of course knows, Destination Management Organization. So we're collecting and analyzing all these short-term rentals data, hotels on the books data, pricing, travel origin, events and demands benchmarks, and so on. All these various KPIs, as Rachel mentioned before, basically we believe that are the key metrics and the key data to effectively tailor and track marketing campaigns. So all those effort then a destination puts marketing can really look at the back and the historical data and the upcoming months can really read well. Then fair licensing and regulation approach, because we know that within the short-term rental regulatory landscape can vary widely across different countries, affecting different aspects. So indeed licensing, indeed taxes, and so on. But as well as with this in mind, rather than to be short-term rentals and hotels, a really fragmented market, really trying to stay focused on key metrics and drive economic, environment, social growth. And of course, doing so obviously allowed to benchmarking, optimizing your destination within your destination, and as well as within your comp set. So, but let's go on and stop. I will stop Rachel moaning about Lighthouse. So, but let's go on what I believe most people are here today. So to see that some in terms of data. So I would like to take you to give you a little bit of context. So what is Arandro? What actually is the situation that we see? So I like to put like short-term rentals on these two type of approaches. So having short-term rental, as we can call it STR, being heroes or villains. So we know that this is a global boom. So the short-term rentals these days, by fact, accounts for more than 20% of the global rental industries. And of course, this can give new income opportunity, as well as regulatory challenges. And this is by all means very important to be acknowledged. Then, of course, it's a global trend. The rise of short-term rentals can boast tourism, but again, needs to be regulated and well controlled. And this is so the two phases that we saw in this past few years. So short-term rentals are villains, so providing problem issue to residences, but as well as changing completely and drastically, reshaping seasonality in probably lost and forgotten hidden place globally. So as sort of outcome of this, we know that travel is and always be hugely resilient. And for after the COVID, we saw very things changing for both markets, both for short-term rentals and hotel. In terms of short-term rentals, we saw an increased demand for new travelers. So what for some period we call it staycation or revenge travel, and so new traveler preferences. So they evolve in I don't know, something that was between business and leisure, and so what has been called B-leisure or digital nomads. So new type of needs, and increased in preferences like having home amenities. So I don't know, have fully kitchen amenities and so on. And obviously, as well as having probably more budget-friendly type of accommodation. Hence, it's no surprise that in the other side, the hotel chain has as well as reacted to this, and they actually build their own brands and trying to gain some market share within this type of market. And adding to this, obviously, is undoubtedly that there is a key point that we cannot miss: the OTAs dominance. So OTAs, compared to the very beginning, have played a pivotal role in this, because they have been able to, thanks to their kind of tech stack and kind of approach, to really streamline the booking process, so the whole traveler experience. And this is very important. So but at the same time, as well as let's don't forget, because we are talking about heroes and villains. So don't forget about during, after, especially after COVID, the trend, as well as if we look at the hotel sector. We also seen a clear sign of rebounding demand for those hotels that were usually hit during the pandemic. So the recovery of business travel, as we all know, and that definitely is not a trend into hotel-centric kind of business. The return in the office from lots of different companies and different companies globally, and of course all those number of macro and microeconomical factor. So rising taxes, government regulation, and by all means we will see few of them in specific cases. So just let's zoom out for a second, and here I want to take you through a little bit of comparison between the European evolution and other global region in terms of vacation rental listing globally, starting from 2019 to date. So here I have a simple takeaway. So that in Europe leads in terms of listing available when we look at short rental properties, and thinking about that these dot in Europe, the highest to date is almost 9 million properties available, and this was data updated in August. But if we quickly move into short-term rentals, into short-term rentals ADR, we see how we notice a different type of contrasting, I would say, slide compared to the previous one. So from 2023-24, so around here, I don't know if we saw my arrow of the mouse, basically Europe rose significantly, but still behind the huge and very strong markets such as North America, or Oceania, and Middle East. So my possible takeaway here is probably we see these trends, and from 2023 that European city has probably opting for a kind of more quality over quantity type of traveler. So basically more focus on, I don't know, luxury product, or most probably with a higher propensity to spend. But our prediction and my prediction is to, despite this ranking, so whether it's above or below, definitely the European city will contribute to basically rise the ADR overall within the short-term rental markets. And this is key for everyone within the industries to realize that and to take action on it. But very often it's not just simply adding a restriction, but overall taking a wider kind of approach. So again, now let's go into those single cases that I want to bring. But before to go ahead, I just want to ask Rachel, is it all good so far? Any question? I can keep on going.
Keep on going, Michele. We are very much enjoying your. I'm already thinking of some questions for you, actually. But yes, absolutely. Please do type questions into the chat box if you wish. Everything is fine, Michele. Please carry on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rachel. So let's have a closer look. So how has the media hype and the legislation that we discussed and we mentioned changes impacted in the European city? So let's start. Let's start from Venice case and the city tourist tax. So I don't know who knows, who does not, but basically since 25th of April this year, the visitor needs to, the daily visitor, this is very important, has been now requested to pay a city tax to enter in the city. So this is kind of the tickets to enter in a museum. And why Venice? Basically the fact why that happened, because basically the city, according to the major city top official and statistics department, basically the city during those really peak weekends or really high seasonal moments, the city really strained behind these daily trippers that, according to these sources, they reach between 30,000 and 40,000. So this is obviously is a huge impact that can have in any city, in any destination, and specifically more in a city like Venice, which saw little narrow bridges and streets and roads, etc., etc. But if we start looking at these first KPIs, and this is, we are looking at shorter rentals. So we are looking in terms of occupancy and ADR. And again, here we'll firstly have a sort of evolution approach for each case from 2019 today, and then we'll deep dive into a monthly kind of approach. Obviously, in our capability, we could potentially go down into a weekly approach, daily approach, but we won't have time today. But by all means, reach out if you're interested. And so here, to be honest, we see that year over year, the trends and evolution remain the same, more or less. And 2024 appears to be following the same pattern. So obviously, we can see, obviously after the COVID period, we see obviously seasonal, obviously summertime. I mean, let's say sunny days compared to winter time, and they fall down and go back. They peak after January, March, February, March, let's say April. But again, closer to August, the peak is still, I mean, the rates in terms of occupancies look like still the same. But what happened in terms of ADR? ADR, basically, to be honest, from my side as well, in these late 2024, it's been keep growing. So not kind of impact. Is it true? That's probably too early because it was just since like April, but still. Let's go into the hotel price. This is the actualized lower price that we can shop on the major online travel agencies. So Booking.com, VRBO, Expedia, and so on. So what we see, that this is a good news for the hotel side. So the lowest online price that we see and evolution from January 19 to date is being kept, obviously, let's keep in a focus from January 2022. So let's say this is the spikes that we go up and down. Let's say this is the seasonality in Venice for the lowest price of hotel. So here we see the evolution is still following the same, but we saw there's a slightly probably price that went down in the basically probably was March, February this year. But let's see even deeper. So let's deep dive. This is, again, we go back here in the shorter rentals. I'm doing so because it was I didn't want to really have one slide with so many with a lot of information. So I divided by slide. So I hope it's clear enough to try to compare, even if there are different KPIs at different cyber segment. But again, today is just to give you a broad capability of what we can, see, what we can read with these such a new tools and tools. So here, in terms of shorter rental year over year, we see that, I mean, so far ADRs keep a strong rate, because how we see it that from 2019 has keep growing almost 20 euro each year in terms of ADR. This is again within the shorter rentals environment, and this year in terms as well as after this dot line is basically when the restriction has been implemented. Again, actually we didn't see the fluctuation that 2023 had. So from 237 in terms of ADR went down to 219. Actually, it just falls of just few euros, and this is probably, sorry, this is in dollars. So basically, but it really just really light, a drop down actually to go back up in the month of August. So and with the latest slide, so in terms of occupancy, this is a different story. So we see that from basically end of April, so that's why I put the line there, the dot line there, the vertical dot line there. So when the restriction has implemented, we saw something. So that actually, if the occupancy went down, but is following the same trend as 2023, which was the year of the recovery post-pandemic. But we have to notice that as well as the overall occupancy has been basically kick the year with a lower occupancy. And that's very interesting because probably, as we said before, we actually are going into a direction where cities within the shorter rental segment are probably thinking of having and pushing for more people, for travelers that are staying the long more time and spend a little bit more. And this is probably why this differences between occupancy and ADR rate. But let's move on. Let's crack on Barcelona short-term rentals. So Barcelona, this is interesting because I think that the KPIs in terms of both short-term rentals and hotels are very interesting to see. But in reality, the case of Barcelona is not happened yet, because as we all know, back in June, the mayor of Barcelona announced his plan. So basically, as happened already in September 2023 for New York, from 2029 Barcelona, there will be a full ban of short-term rentals in the whole city. So there will be ban new license to new properties, and there will be not renewal to the existing one. So what's happening in Barcelona? So the fact is it true that there is less supply for long-term residents, and of course this leads to an increase of price? That's, we all know this, and this is under the lights of everyone. But the rise in the demands for the rents in Barcelona is not just about tourism. So there's a various facts. It's very, very complex, the situation, but just to mention a couple of them, we know, and we all know, the very well-known status from Barcelona to be a huge startup hub, and as well as the incredible opportunity for multinational companies, huge multinational companies that had their own offices there, which is obviously drives opportunity for highest spender to rise, as well as the price for the long-term rental. So that said, still, even if we consider all this, the city has this kind of idea. So stopping to renew the short rentals, and then hoping to have this drastical change and swift in the long-term rent price. But it would be the same. So probably I didn't go through like each metric here, but it's very quickly. It's like we see that how supply, ADR, and occupancy, they keep, even if this has been implemented, once again, it's not been implemented yet, but we see how, again, Barcelona as a city is really strong market for this. And at the same time, hotel is facing the same situation, because hotel lowest prices keep pushing up year over year from 2022, and occupancy as well overall is increasing incredibly. So this come to me, but probably most of you have the same or similar kind of question. So are vacation rental probably really to blame? Is this short-term rentals ban the right move? I mean, the reality is, for instance, in the case of Barcelona, is that the short-term rentals is actually representing 1% of the total housing supply. So the idea that short-term rental ban will fix the housing crisis, and that with this type of restriction, they exponentially change the rent price, is just wrong. So as we said before, there are still many things that probably influence to this kind of trends within the city. And I think that this is an opportunity, and we believe that this is an opportunity for the local governments to actually decide on what is the right kind of approach and plan to support the city and to impact into the infrastructure that we have in the city. So this is it for Barcelona. Let's move on into the daily approach, the monthly approach, sorry. So again, here the occupancy year over year for short-term rentals, and here is what the top line is when basically the restriction has been announced, so June, and what we saw in terms of occupancy, it went down, but this is still again following the same trends, but probably it's going down. So once again, as for Venice, probably this could be a good approach, but probably it's too radical. We don't know, but let's see at the ADR again for short-term rentals. So this is what we see. So the professionalism actually that the city the city owners of the property owner in the city and property managers, whatever they are, single or multiple managers and owners, they show that they actually know what I'm doing. Because as we said at the beginning for Venice, look at how it increased the average daily rate. So this is actually is a direction which I believe within the market in Florence, and we believe by looking at this data that actually the destination is thinking, okay, we have to try to push to be to having a balance from residencies and traveler, but not a ban as a final result. So again, occupancy lower. I go back to the slide before. So lower, but this is actually following really similar trends to all European cities. So lower occupancy, but again, higher occupancy. So once again, this is an opportunity for the city. This is a massive new inbound for the destination, and more than that is a new of traveling of people, as we just said at the beginning. So no more and only focus on hotel kind of accommodation experience, but as well as in something different, which is obviously the hotel stay for the things that and the reason that we just said. So again, here consistent, ADR, and which is keep growing, and obviously again it's too early, but is since the announcement, this has been really taken as a threat. We could potentially say, on the contrary, we see that people are likely to be became more and more professional, because as we said, this is, if you think about that, Airbnb just came up into the market in early 2012. So we are not looking, has so many years of this type of, housing opportunity. So let's move on, and then we go on the Rome case. I don't know for how many of you the Rome what is called Airbnb bust phenomenon, but this is what they have been talked in Italy back in 2023. So just for you as an information, Italy is one of the top market for short-term rentals, because one of the issue that we have in Italy, like across any city, any region, etc., is basically the unused properties. So properties, very old properties that are left there, basically getting old and not used. So basically, after the RBB kicked in Italy, there was this massive grow in the market. So if we think about, as we said, Venice, Florence, Rome, Milan, Palermo, Brindisi, and so on, incredible massive market for this kind of housing and travel opportunities. So what happened in just right before the summer? So basically, the whole Italian market expressed huge concern over navigating this new property management restriction that was implemented. So basically, from one day to the other, a lot of different rules, which is I won't be going telling everything, but a lot of them
So from regulating to take such happening in London, so to actually to if you want to rent the house for less than a period to become a professional, and so forth. So this is basically blew up the market. Say, oh my God, it's going to be a terrible 2023, and this is why it's called the Airbnb bust, where probably the easy earnings wasn't available happening anymore after this implementation. And as we can see, if we move into the trends, again from before on a year-over-year evolution, we see that supply after, of course, the inclination after COVID, it went rise up, and we see in terms of supply of in Rome an incredible, going back to the period of 2019. ADR again for all type of bedroom increasingly growing much further up than compared to 2019 and 2023, and occupancy as well. Again, following the same seasonality trends between the year, so January to December, but keep very high. And what about hotel? Again, so did it make any impact? Actually, probably this helped. So we see that again, like we saw before from Barcelona, the occupancy and the price is keep growing, as well as within the hotel. So in terms of lowest price available, and as well as occupancy. So it has been the two graphs, they're not actually compare because they are taking different period approach. But this is just to give you an overall understanding of where the market has been going. So again, if this was an implementation, because actually I was personally within that kind of business back in 2011 and 2021, and is it true? There were daily a new rule coming in, and you were wasting more time into trying to follow the right things to do rather than managing the properties. But still, again, is there any real impact after that? So here we go. If we looked at on a monthly approach, the short-term rental market seems to be moving great. So again, the occupancy is really high, and what we actually, to me, it start coming, automatically comes like a question in my mind: are we probably looking at probably moving towards a natural selection? So we're probably more of professional kind of manager will be able to withstand the competition and remain profitable within the market. If we think about the data that we just saw for different type of cities, so we went from Venice to Barcelona, now to Rome, so completely different type of landscape in terms of trends, in terms of travel product, etc. So we keep seeing this. So actually, this is a mistake. This is not occupancy. This is ADR. So we see this really strong rising of ADR and a lower occupancy. This means this segment, this phenomenon is becoming more and more strong. So again, is it an approach to see shorter lengths, the whole environment as a villa is correct? Probably at the beginning it was the excitement. So we actually did see it as an heroes, but should we be saying that it's fair, that we should be balancing and having a really fair approach without banning, without too strict regulation, but we actually probably implementing fair approach to it towards European city and globally? And probably the last one case, London.
Again, London, I picked it because it's a city where is probably, I would say, is my second home. I've been living that for almost 10 years, and actually, I definitely see why in London has been approached in different ways compared to the other city, but still, did actually the implementation change anything in terms of how this segment has been evolving throughout the year? So in 2022, there was a bylaw, a short-term rental approach restriction. So basically, London brought in this bylaw, trying to regulate as much as possible the short-term rentals, similar to Rome, but which is much more strict approach. So it was required to every property should be listed by the city itself, a maximum on 90 days rental possible for the owners, and as well as the restriction that the restriction rentals where the owner's primary home can be rented. So to give that approach that Airbnb original had, so I'm sharing my house, so I give you this kind of experience, which normally we move towards the past 20 years from away from that, because there are still people that provide the experience in their own home, but as we mentioned before, there is a new segment within the travel industries that decide to go for a different product. So it's not only hotel, business and leisure, but this type of new kind of travelers that we mentioned. And what we can see, if we go to the general overlook at the trends and variation and the three KPIs for short-term rentals, again, after the COVID, again, everything is going to keep up and being really strong in terms of supply. So the total, imagine I moved. So imagine how the supply, so the first graph that we're looking at, how from 2022 to 2024 has been keep pushing up, and the ADR as well, occupancy, and what about hotel evolution metrics? So again, here probably they take more advantage. We don't know exactly, but again, as well as the hotels has been increasing the capability in terms of lowest price. They've been increasing their hotel occupancy. So by all means, this is something that is evolving for every segment, and we should be looking with these tools very carefully and try to take the most out of it from both sides, good and bad. And again, short-term rental ADR for London on a monthly base. Again, let's look at the average. Again, like we saw before, again, at different cities. So we saw Venice, a tiny, small leisure city. We saw Rome, both mixed kind of city market, so business and leisure. We saw Barcelona, and now London, very much into, definitely did, I would say, 365 days occupancy per year. So both leisure and business travel, and we see, and of course, events, meeting and events, etc. And we see once again how ADR has been growing, and so how probably again the destination, the cities, the managers, they would be, learning more and more and be more professional in this type of housing or accommodation. And here is the occupancy year over year. Once again, lower occupancy with a higher ADR. It's very, very interesting, even if it has been following the same trends as 2023 and 2022. So, closing remarks. I will wrap this up. Rachel, I hope that I wasn't too annoying with this graph and with my talking, but I would like to really thank you very much. So I would like to wrap up with this. Actually, I will mention briefly a final case, which is, but without any chart, but just to, as a talking point. The latest and most famous case has been New York City. And actually, we do have the post-regulation information. So the concern, once again, was that short-term rental, fueled by these platforms such as Booking.com, Airbnb, and so on, have caused this long-term price rise. And so lots of different cities managers has taken an action. And as we all know, New York has been, since September 2023, has been banned, as it is thinking to do Barcelona in next 2022. And post-regulation, we saw over 80,000 short-term rental regulated properties decrease in terms of listing in the city, which is basically they've been given an indication of how compliance and potential market shift we have in such a city with such a strong restriction. But we also saw that from a hotel perspective, we saw an increase, massive increase in terms of ADR, probably 20-30% increase, making obviously from a hotel perspective, New York very expensive. It was already expensive, imagine now even more. So of course, from a short-term rental approach, there are still benefits who can do that. But of course, we believe that this kind of restrictions, so this kind of ban, really strong, they are not the solution. And actually, it's not a good, because it's a solution. It's because with these extreme kind of approaches, and an extreme itself is never good for anyone. And so my giveaway after this almost 40 minutes talking, it will be these 5 points. So like I started the presentation, data accuracy. So these days, this data that, I'm sure that, lots of you has, lots of questions about on the data and, how we can potentially arguably having, a talking point. But again, this is not what we do in terms of giving the approaches to that data. We want to provide the information and the professional within the destination, the public or private segment, they need to use it. And so the data accuracy is one of the key points. So provides for us comprehensive real-time data for wholesale, for short-term rentals, is making this type of innovation approach to travel completely reliable and new and crucial for these quick and fast changing environment that we're facing these days. And having the opportunity to make decision on these is basically the way to go. Then strategic advantages too. So these tools and these data are always been, they can be tailored for your destination, because we all know that any destinations can have their different kind of approach. So this is basically enhance your strategies as a city, as a region, and a country. And by all means, we as a Lighthouse, we work with various destinations worldwide, more than 180 on any level. And this obviously can really enhance the professional to see if any approach has been implemented, what was the result and the impact in the destination, looking at the historical information after, as we did. So after a specific rules or a specific plan was implemented, and looking at the overall trends happen. And so this is lead me to the third point. So evidence-based decision making. So with this, you can and you are able to justify what was your past initiatives and anticipate new one. So because if it's something happened that you've done and it's been doing good, so why to change it? Why keep going? But we could potentially see that something has been working in the past, and the prediction is not still the same. So why not change that? And we can do that. So 4 point, efficiency in resource management. Before I mentioned data driven, and this was a word that was used, I would say over 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago, that was really used. And it actually still indeed very fair to use it. But why? Because before to be data driven means to be, lots of trends, a lot of charts, a lot of pivoting tables, trying to gather, and compare, trends and from multiple type of market, multiple type of product, etc., etc., trying to identify actions and opportunities. But by all means, these days, company like Lighthouse, but and not only, they are really making the step ahead in making these actually very efficient and very time management. And as a last point, reliable information, because with this kind of information and having, as mentioned before, to opportunity to work within our clients, our department, to take this kind of information and give it and provide it to any potential destination. Once again, for any level, this is me to possibly giving support on a daily basis 24/7 from our side. So having this assistant, so removing all those distraction in trying to understand if there is an error, why having this issue, and so on. So with that said, I think I'm over the time, and I would like to thank you everyone for your attention. If you like to just take my my details from the QR code, but I mean, Rachel, we will throw the presentation to all of you, and then you have as well as my email. So by all means, reach out at any time. I will be happy to chat with any of you. So Rachel, back to you, and I will stop presenting.
Thank you so much, Michele. That's an absolute wealth of information. And, in fact, I think my main takeaway is how encouraging it is to see how much data there is available on short-term rentals, because I think in the past it has been seen as a little bit the Wild West that's doing its own thing and nobody can control the beast, as it were. And, I think what you've shown us there is that's very much not the case. We can see what's going on, and we can, make it fit with the whole visitor ecosystem. So I think that's my main takeaway, and absolutely bowled over by how much information you've shared. So thank you so much. And we've got a few minutes left before the end of the session. So please type in any questions that you have for Michele. One thing I thought of, actually at the beginning, Michele, was your slide about the sort of prevalence of short-term rental in the different continents, and pointing out that in Europe it's the most prevalent, but in America, in North America, it's got the highest ADR. And I just wondered about the availability in Europe. Is your perception that that is driven by the supply or the demand? Is it cheaper? Are the properties less expensive in Europe, which is why people are happier? Or what's your take on that?
I mean, my personal take is probably, as you said, probably is cheaper. Why? Because this phenomenon came from US, because we mentioned, the boom on a global level came thanks to Airbnb. So when it did arrive, and there was no any regulation implemented by any kind, obviously a little bit on what happened in Rome with Airbus phenomenon. So from not having any regulation to a lot of regulation. So obviously in there we could potentially say that, as well as the way that the whole segment was managed, was probably not fair compared the actual and usual hotel type of accommodation type. And of course, this has been, as we saw this year, especially specifically after COVID, how it changed. So we see more and more that that whoever is the owner, whoever is renting out, whether it's a multi-property owner or is a single property owner, we keep seeing, whether it's a London, Rome, Southwest Center, or wherever it is in Europe, this keep constant trends of having occupancy lower and increasing at ADR. So this is why I do think that because this phenomenon has imported, from one day to the other, so the people has been running behind, and the whole travel organization has been running behind into regulation, approaches, etc., etc. Now we ended up, I mean, I think that for everyone was a nice opportunity during the COVID, has been an opportunity from everyone. So whoever was doing this as a business, as well as for destination manager and city council to have this opportunity. But now that we see that this is a trend, as an experience, is a product that more and more travel they wish to have, a part of the standard hotel, it needs to be regulated. So yes, indeed. So that's probably, and that's why we see the trends that probably is changing this. And this is actually good news. So lower occupancy and not the whole focus and say, super occupancy, we can walk on the street and that's just the photo shorter rentals. But probably this is not the case.
And actually, interesting, I was thinking while you were talking about that whole sort of regulation piece, and when you were talking about London, it looked as if the restriction hasn't had an enormous effect on supply. And I suppose my question was, is it because there weren't many properties like that, or are the councils not regulating it properly? Are they able to access information like yours so that they can regulate it? Or are they just sort of merrily throwing these regulations out and then they're not able to actually check up on them?
No, absolutely. And by all means, Rachel, that's a really good question. And it's a good case for the bylaw in London. We can definitely look at the whole historical change and supply in any city, in any given city. So by all means, as well as in London, and we can actually drill down into a daily kind of approach. So you can see, how we can drill down. So the second slides I show were on a monthly basis. But of course, this is as information that from 2018, so not much further than that year, but we can still see having an understanding on how this has been, evolving. And regarding London, another thing is basically, by all means, we are these days, partnered with Visit Britain itself. So we provide some data, and obviously, those information that you saw in terms of how London was an overall view is very wider approach. But once again, we can really drill down and add so many different types of KPIs. So the demands, the traveler origin, and so on. So the traveler type and so on, which you should be able to understand exactly what you are asking.
It's really interesting. And Michele, we're just coming to the end of our time. I've got one more question to cover with you. And forgive me if you sort of covered it, but I didn't quite fully pick up on it. It was really something about when you talk about Rome. And you were showing the occupancy rates, and they were really high, for the short-term rental. And I just wondered, as a general question about occupancy with your data, does the short-term rentals occupancy kind of mirror the hotel occupancy in a destination, or does it vary, or what do we see with regards to occupancy levels?
No, it definitely varies. It's not the same, of course, as a pattern towards, let's say, an overall year. So let's take in consideration 12 months. Is definitely follows the same sort of pattern. So in terms of talking about seasonality, but like the supply as well, like in terms of like overall supply, in terms of number is different. So this is obviously my impact the percentage, both in occupancy and ADR. So obviously, as an overall approach, it might keep the similar pattern and trends, but by all means, it's completely different, because as well as the typology of short-term rentals, as we all know, as actually you mentioned at the beginning, it can be very fragmented, because an hotel is a business that is always there. Is always be there, and it's going to be hard that from one day to another disappear. On the contrary, we all know that, and by fact we have this kind of data as well, a short-term rental properties can be paused, so not removed from the market, but paused, let's say, for low season, and put back on in high season, and we can actually track all that too. So see how actually the overall supply offer can vary in terms of occupancy, and this is another project that we could potentially look into. I hope I replied to your question.
Absolutely, Michele. Yes, I think we're just coming to the end of our time. So before we wrap up, I'd just like to remind everybody that this will be available on our Insight Hub as well as being emailed to you. That's etoa.org/insight. Lighthouse do have their own channel on the Insight Hub as one of our partners. So if you want to look up more of Michele's research and the research of his colleagues, do take a look at that. And it remains for me to thank you very much, Michele, for joining us. We hope you can join us on another session, and I wish you all a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much. And say bye to everyone as well by saying that and reminding that if everyone wish to see me, I will be present in TTG Rimini and as well as WTM. So thank you very much, Rachel, for the opportunity, and we'll see you all around. Have a good day.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye-bye.